Strong looks different for each of us, and it's time to put focus on our unique journeys that get us there. This space, created weekly, is for athletes to improve their mindset in order to better navigate challenges that come up in sport and in different seasons of life. On this show, we ask the questions that lead to better answers and have the conversations that truly matter. This is the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Hey, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Your Strong podcast. I alluded to this last week, but I am thrilled for this week's topic because we are going to dive into something that I feel like is just going to reach so many people in a positive way. This is basically like an advice for my younger self type of episode. So just incredibly thrilled to talk to you about just some advice that I'd have for some of you starting off in hybrid racing, and even for those of you that are more tenured like myself, that are just looking to continue to create some noise, just some things that we need to continue to remember as we take steps forward in this journey. So it's going to be an awesome episode. But before we jump into that, let's go ahead and do our Becoming Your Strong moment of the week. And this week, I am going to shout out the infamous, absolutely strong, courageous, super stinking cool Brooklyn Nichols, who did something pretty monumental this past weekend. So if you were keeping up with any of the DecaFit PA results, you will know that Brooklyn raced, I believe, 3 races. Yes, 3 races. And she podiumed every single one of them. She podiumed the elite fit. She podiumed the elite co-ed teams for first place for that team's race with Kevin, and then third place in the elite female fit. And then she came, well, this is the very first race that she did, but she took first place in the DecaFit Ruck, and not only took a top spot, but she set the brand new world record. And what's really cool about this, you guys, is not the accomplishment itself, but the story behind the accomplishment. Brooklyn went to 2024 World Championships with this really big goal to beat this world record. She had trained really hard on it. Basically, it was her main focus, and she missed it by 10 freaking seconds. And she talked about how it was a blow. Like, anytime you go all in on something and you miss it by such a small margin, like mentally, physically, emotionally, it's sometimes tough to deal with. But it's not like it completely wrecked her world. It's just, of course, a little bit of disappointment. And she took all that she felt and all that she learned from the previous training season, from what she raced that weekend, into this year. And this weekend, not even a year later, she not only beat the world record, but she annihilated it by 57 seconds. And what's really notable is that it was Lauren Weeks' record that she beat. And if you know anything about Lauren Weeks, she's a monster in the hybrid racing space. So I just think that is truly the definition of becoming your strong, is just not giving up on something when it doesn't come to fruition, but just really leaning into the fact that just because I didn't gain this outcome now doesn't mean that this is some form of rejection, that I'll never be able to seek this outcome. It just means that I still have things to learn and grow in, and I still am becoming someone that is capable of achieving those things. And there's nothing wrong with that. I trust that with the right training, the right focus, the right mental space, that I will achieve it. I'm just going to enjoy the journey and trust in the process. And I totally believe that that's what Brooklyn navigated this situation with, and why she was able to not only stand on top of a podium this weekend, but claim this brand new world record. So super proud of you, sister. It's an amazing honor of mine to get to share this space with you, to toe the line with you. I'll be very excited to see you at World Championships, and just get the chance, like I said, to share space and to race with you once again. So amazing job there. Let's go ahead and jump into the topic for this week, which, like I mentioned, is basically advice for my younger self. Around 2023, this time in 2023, I decided that I was going to go all in on DECA, that this was going to be where I spent my time and energy. And this is when I also qualified for my first world championship in age group. And I just remember having zero clue into what I was doing. I was a trainer, but I didn't really understand this space totally yet. But I was clueless in what it was that I was doing. And I did pretty well for not knowing what in the world I was actually supposed to be doing to see success. And so I think about that person, right, who just made a decision that they want to do this and they want to be good at this stuff. And I want to speak to you today and talk about what it is that I wish that I knew. What would I have done differently? What steps or action items would I have taken on if I had a chance to redo it over again? But I also, too, I'm not just talking to the new person, I'm talking to the tenure person like myself listening on the end of the line, because I think that some of these things that I'm going to say today just as much will resonate with you and will serve as a reminder of the things that we need to keep close to home. So I think that this will be a really awesome episode for all populations today. So I have about 6 to 7 things that I will share today. The first one being that fueling for performance versus fueling for aesthetics are very, very different. And as a byproduct of that, your body will change, and that is totally okay. So there's a lot packed into this one, but this just comes from the fact that I lost a bunch of weight a few years ago. In 2018, I decided to turn around my life and to go on one of the hardest yet rewarding journeys of my life, and that was to say yes to myself and to lose some weight and put myself in just a better space overall, mentally, physically, emotionally. And it was amazing. But with that, having that background of losing all this weight and becoming super stick thin and used to seeing a certain number on the scale, when I started hybrid racing, my body started to shift. And in order to keep up with the demands that I was putting on it, my diet also had to shift a little bit, which was very different from, I was eating salads and a lot of greens and a lot of lower calorie things. Now I was putting in a lot of bigger volume efforts, intense efforts, and I needed to feel differently. And as, again, a byproduct, not only does your body change, things just start to fit differently and you're noticing things differently. And I have struggled with body image issues because of it. When you originally made a decision to go and do something for yourself because things no longer fit and you were tired of going into dressing rooms and having things not zip up or rip, to then having everything fit, to then going back to that, wow, these shorts used to once fit me, now they're not fitting anymore. It shakes you to your core. And I just wanted to be very honest about that. For anyone who's struggled with relationships with food like I have, especially, as it relates to body image and maybe not feeling your body as a byproduct of that, not feeling it correctly, understanding what I'm saying here is super important. You have to wrap your head around this and learn this stuff immediately so you do not end up depleted and injured. Luckily, I never got to that point, and I still am not at that point. But there's so many people that I know who have had a similar past to mine and struggle to feel correctly, and they're struggling with keeping themselves overall healthy. I think that the first step in dealing with this, if you find yourself maybe struggling with this stuff, is creating that mental shift in your head from food is not a punishment to it's a reward. And it's not just calories in, it's fuel to keep you thriving in what's most important and the things that you love to do. The second step is to learn how to actually fuel your body best. And I recommend getting help and doing these things. The best thing that I could have done was tapping on the shoulder of my buddy AJ and just saying, hey, I'm feeling this way. I'm having the body image issues, but I also know that in order to perform, I need to fuel for these efforts. Can you help? And just by getting assistance and knowing that I wasn't alone and that I was validated in how I was feeling, and then having a step-by-step plan to where I was like, okay, this is success. If I do this, then I know I'm probably going to feel my best. I'm going to perform my best. And my body is going to show up for me in ways not just on the scale or in the mirror or how I fit in my clothes, but it's going to show up for me in life in the way that I want it to. So it just cut out this what if, and I found peace in being able to eat again. And that is just so freaking powerful. The second thing that I wish that I knew when I started hybrid racing is that most of your training sessions should be easier to moderate efforts so that you can show up the next day and continue to put in quality work. I kind of giggle a little bit. I probably could go find the notes on my phone because I wrote everything on my phone. But just thinking about like how many efforts I did that were threshold efforts and VO2 max efforts and just going basically balls to the wall. I was crushing myself with high intensity efforts and putting in as much of those type of workouts in as I possibly could because I thought that's what was necessary. That's what I was racing. So the more and more that I did that, I thought, well, practice makes perfect. I should hopefully get better at racing at higher intensity efforts. Unfortunately, that doesn't always bode very well, especially in terms of recovery and being able to continually and consistently putting in good quality training. So one thing that I've gotten good at asking myself during my weekly reflections is, how did I build confidence in my training this week? And I find that if I struggle to answer this question, I probably am putting myself up against these really hard workouts where it's hard for me to succeed and not see myself making progress. And I also probably have really high expectations of how I should be doing, like putting unnecessary pressure on myself. So you yourself might be going too hard in your sessions, and you yourself might have way too high of expectations versus just allowing for these easy and moderate efforts to lift you up, to build confidence, and just to help you find joy in this long journey that we have ahead. So I hope that gives you a breath of fresh air, that you don't need to be training at this super high intensity effort, that like 80% of what you do during the week should be easy to moderate. And that's more than enough, right? And those other 20%, those can be found in a little bit of a harder sense. But if you're feeling depleted in so many different ways, you're probably falling fate to doing the opposite of this. So that is something that I wish that I knew when I first started. The next thing that I wish that I knew was the importance of mobility and the other small things that actually matter. These are the things like the accessory lifting, all the work that goes in there, the recovery efforts and being intentional there, the time spent on your mental game just as much as your physical game. If all you do is focus on the things that seem really big, aka just like the training efforts where it's like, well, I have to lift heavier, I have to run faster, blah, 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 you're gonna wind up cutting yourself short. One of the biggest transformations that I've seen for myself this year, outside of doing, again, more easy to moderate efforts for a little bit longer periods of time and watching my aerobic base essentially go through the freaking roof, is that I started a mobility program. And the way that my body has felt, the range of motion that I'm able to get on things, the fact that like I am no longer suffering from this hip thing that I randomly got last April, and I'm able to just like sit down and enjoy sitting down versus having to fidget and move my legs around. Like guys, if there's one thing you should take from this, it's how important like mobility and just taking care of your joints and your body is. Because a lot of what we do in hybrid racing is forwards and backwards and maybe a little bit side to side. We don't do a ton of rotation. We don't do a lot of movements in those other planes, and we're not thinking about those things. And if we're just a robot, the moment that we're challenged to go in a different way, or when life serves us something different, you're going to find yourself injured and hurt. So take just as much priority in your mobility efforts, your recovery efforts, just taking care of the things that seem small that actually matter, as you would in a big aerobic based session or any one of those other quality sessions. The next thing that I wish that I knew is to not compare your efforts from one season of life to this current season of life. I will say this, I personally haven't struggled with this as much, but a lot of my clients have. I have a lot of clients that are maybe just getting married, having kids, they're longtime mothers, and depending on what's going on at work, what's going on in their family, just different obligations that they have, the strains that are going on within their life are allowing for certain things to be done and not allowing for other things to be done, right? And one thing that I always tell my clients to do is to remeasure or redefine their measure of success. Because what they probably might do is measure their success in this season of life, and they're comparing it to what they did in a previous season. And that is causing so much frustration that they can't give the same level, they can't give the same effort in this season of life than they used to in previous. So this is a call to continually redefine your measure of success and to give yourself grace for the life that you're currently navigating through the process. The next one is probably one of the more important ones. We're just getting more and more and more important. And that is self-talk is the most important skill that you can build. The difference between where you want to be and where you are isn't that 60-minute session. It's the voice between your ears telling you whatever story you allow for it to. When you train, I encourage you not just to focus on the physical aspect of it, but to focus on the mental just as much and how you can grow there through these harder, whatever longer duration physical efforts. Take intentional time outside of your sessions to reflect and to grow through personal development. If you're not reading a book or listening to podcasts, doing something intentional for your brain and for your heart, you've got to do that. You've absolutely got to do that. The way that I was able to hit 1250 a couple weekends ago in my Deca Strong mark probably had very little to do with the 8 weeks that I spent previous to that in terms of physical effort. Yes, I'm sure I primed my body, and yes, I'm sure I got fitter. But really what it came down to was when I woke up and being able to manage the thoughts and the anxiety and the adrenaline and the fear and the doubts of what if I wasn't able to pull this off. That is what allowed for me the ability to handle that, to have that skill. That's what allowed for me to not only do well in that race, but for the rest of the weekend, because there were plenty of other moments where I had the doubt and I had the fear, but my ability to turn the volume down on those things and to shift my perspective and to find the proof in what I was capable of, that's the reason why I won. So never ever forget that self-talk is the most important skill that you can build, and you should spend just as much time doing that as you do building up your physical skills. One of the last ones here, and this one is, again, these are all so important, but gosh, this one like really hits home for me. And that is that there is never a perfect training plan. As someone who is a trainer and who is constantly looking for the best of the best methods to train her clients under, and even myself, there is nothing that is going to be 100% perfect and bulletproof. And it's really hard for me to say that out loud, because as much as I wish that there was a magic answer, there's not. But what I will say is that the best program for you is the one that you believe in and the one that you're going to enjoy the most. Guys, the name of the game is consistency. So engage yourself in a progressive plan that allows for you to celebrate yourself and, most importantly, enjoy the process. And this is where I want to leave you today, is that you can go super fast alone, but you can only go super far with others. The best decision that I made after the 2023 World Championships was to reach out for help and immerse myself in one of the best communities and families in hybrid racing. Because of that, not only did I end up earning world championship titles, setting world records, having qualified for elite now in multiple categories 2 years in a row, but now I also have the opportunity to pay it forward to so many of you guys that I train, and I get to coach other people to do the same thing that I achieved. All of that fell into my lap because I chose to not do this thing alone. So if you are sitting on the sidelines using things like money as an excuse, or anything else for that matter that's holding you back, I just ask for you to reconsider and to use my story as proof that the best things are to come on the other side of saying yes to yourself. And I can promise you this, you are worth it. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. I hope that this episode truly helped. Again, be sure to share this with people that needs to hear this, and continue to say yes to yourself. If you are interested in learning more about working with me, you can always go down to the show notes, click on a link, and just do a free consultation call. It's going to be in my link for you to work with me, and we can get on the phone and chat about what it is that you're genuinely trying to work towards, right? No strings attached. But until we get the honor to obviously speak with each other, I hope that you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys next week for another episode of Becoming Her Strong. See you then.